So presumably next month we're getting a Guilty Gear Strive patch. A big patch with major system changes and balance changes to the characters. But before this big patch comes out, I wanted to kind of look back and think about what characters have actually been buffed the most over time. So this is 5 characters I think are the most buffed in Guilty Gear Strive period, with an honorable mention snuck in. And we're talking about characters that have been significantly buffed since they've been released. We have to start with Jacko. Launch Jacko was considered one of the worst characters, if not the worst character in the game by a lot of people, but not your boy. I did actually see the vision on this character, but the main complaints mostly came from her resource. In the current version, she starts with full summon meter, but when she released, she only started with 1 summon. Now this resource is not just summons, it is summons and actions. That being said, they have changed her quite a bit since then. So for starters, the most obvious one is more servant actions and summon opportunities from round start. She also got a bunch of input changes over time, mostly around being able to do things while holding servants. For example, she was not able to do actions like this with the minion while holding servants before. Many things that she has are just faster than launch, and this is a pretty common pattern in characters that came out around like season 1 and buffs from season 1. Both her 2P and sweep are faster now, and things like her sweep, 5k, and 2k all have less recovery. So the startup of these things really matter, because in the case of 2P, for example, and I have her matching 2k here just to line up numbers, but if you don't have a 5-frame button, it becomes pretty difficult to actually get out of strike throw pressure. A 5-frame button, especially on a crouching normal, and you're already crouch blocking, right? Makes it so that you always have something you can do along with jumping and backdashing and invincible options. Thus, recovery is pretty straightforward too. It doesn't matter so much for sweep, but for things like 2k, having like a poke like this that is hard to whip punish, and she has fast options like backdash or doing it again because this is the best slow profile in the game, is very good in my opinion. And now her servants kill projectiles, so people have to address it more directly. And what I mean is, on launch, the minion would actually be off screen here, but once they upgraded the projectile level of the minions, it is a much stronger anti-zoning tool. Now, in general, people have to straight up hit the minion rather than use projectiles. All in all, Jacko's changes made it so that she's able to do more and earlier. And the speed of the character went up, not from her actual movement, because she's not really a fast character per se, but the speed of her actions went up, which means she builds more meter, has more opportunity to control the screen, and can reach her win condition easier. Next character I want to talk about is Ino. So Ino was considered unlikely to be added to the game before this game came out, because of all the talk about not wanting characters that had like looping set play. They did end up adding her, as we know, but she had quite a few problems on launch. Now, many players would basically summarize her problems on launch being she didn't do a lot of damage very easily, and she was kind of slow and linear. So the first major changes didn't come for a while, but it was in regards to her movement. So in an early patch, they actually made her air dash slightly faster, and you can extend the duration by holding forward. But after that, they also made it so any up input during your air dash and air backdash, or any down input during your air dash and air backdash, changes her air momentum. It's more obvious with the air backdash and the air forward dash. So if you look at her normal air dash versus air dash up versus air dash down, if you told me you couldn't tell the difference between the three, I wouldn't really get mad at you. It's far more clear with the air backdash. Later, they gave her the ability to dash block far sooner, which was a major weakness of hers, in addition to being able to jump cancel it early. Just like I mentioned with Jacko, a bunch of things got faster. 2P, close slash, and 2S all got speed upgrades. So Ino got stuff that was generally focused on mobility, but in Season 3 is when I think she got her most major buffs. So with Red Wild Assault, her big weakness of conversion, so that she had to hit people a lot, was basically gone. Now she can convert many things into full combos that break the wall. She also got a new special move, which is called MLA for short. It's called Mad Love Agitato. Maybe I said that wrong. This is a plus on block guard crush, plus 12 actually, that predictably goes over lows because she hovers in the air. I basically think there's two types of special moves they give. So in Season 3, they said they're giving characters new special moves if they've been out since the game's launch. And they've either given characters moves that fill in a hole in their gameplay, like Ino, or if they think the character's okay, they give a move that changes how they play a little bit and gives the player a new tool to play with, but doesn't really like fix a specific problem. With this, she gets reward against people who try to fish for certain moves preemptively that go across the ground. So at this point, she moves in a much more ambiguous way, and she gets big return on mix-ups. And even though it's annoying to fight this overextending character, she is taking pretty big risk in order to get that offense, and she doesn't have good HP. So the reward was much appreciated. So I'm pretty sure Ino players are happy with the reward. So speaking of reward, next we have to talk about Goldlewis Dickinson. So Goldlewis is another character that was considered to be pretty weak when the character came out, even though I know there are people who look back and think, oh, actually Goldlewis was pretty stupid when he came out. There is an undeniable truth that this character has gotten many changes since he's released. So one for starters is Air Behemoth changing trajectory in the air. So this makes it so not only that you might have to deal with timing with anti-airs because he's not linear now. As you know, he does not have a double jump, so this definitely helps him. But you can also use it for mix-ups as well, and you see people use it for left-right mix-ups. So they buffed this minigun, Skyfish, to be faster. Now, many Goldlewis attacks have been improved since he's released. Between 6P, straight up working. So before, you would not be able to do this super easily. Close slash getting more frame advantage. His far slash advancing. 2K becoming faster. Improved hurt boxes on both GS and JD by reducing them. 5K becoming stagger. And more. Drone has been improved a lot as well. This is actually one of the only moves they've reverted because famously in Season 2 this move was really broken since it didn't go away on hit. But outside of that meme, there's been other improvements to the move as well. Notable things including the projectile actually slowing down in the corner compared to mid-screen. Varied amounts of clashing with projectiles depending on the level of the drone. So for example, against Ino No, I have the worst version of the drone, which is the level 1. So this doesn't go far, as you can see. But also if it clashes, notice that Ino still beats this projectile. Kind of just makes it pop. Now at level 2, it works a little differently. It'll keep going. Of course, this also happens on the most powerful version. The on-hit properties have also changed. So level 1 doesn't even really do anything. But Goldlewis quickly gets level 2. And this leads into a soft knockdown. When his security gauge is maxed out, you actually get a hard knockdown. So Goldlewis has been a character that's been tweaked a lot, and if you go back and look at tier lists, you'll see he's kind of like all over the place. In our last patch, you have heard people maybe say he was straight up the best character in the game, and it's not the first time people have said that about him, but it's primarily because of how much they alter him. Another character that's been tweaked a ton since this game has come out is actually my favorite character in this game, besides Elfel, Faust. So Faust was another character that on launch people were kind of like, this character might be the worst in the game. And truthfully, in Season 1, depending on whether or not you're glass half full or glass half empty, there were like two main ways you could look at the game. You either thought, oh, you know, like, the balance is kind of chill, there's just a couple characters that are too good. Or you look at it as, man, there are like these couple of broken characters and everyone else is trash. And personally, I think many people are in the latter group. Faust has gotten a ton of changes as well, and the majority of them are actually around normals. So for example, his 5H. Once upon a time, Mei was able to backdash this because on launch this only had 2 active frames. So even though Mei has the lowest amount of active frames you can have on a backdash at 4 frames, she would be able to easily slide past this massive step, making this move pretty hard to use. Now it's 8 frames and extremely active. On top of that, it has less recovery, so it's harder to whip punish. It does more damage than before. And eventually, they made this hard knockdown. On launch, and this is what even a Faust hater like me could get behind, this move did not wall break. At all. Maybe they forgot, I don't know. This move, 5K, did not hit crouchers point blank. Then there's his close slash. His close slash has pretty good proximities, as in he could use it from a pretty far distance. And there's actually 3 groups of close slashes in the game. -1, +1, and +3. Now Faust and Axel are in that latter group, so his is still minus, but it used to be even worse on block. Originally his far slash was -13. This is kind of a callback to when I was talking about there was 2 ways you could look at the game, because a lot of characters had this theme of like some of their normals were just straight up punishable. We just got Dragon Punch into Red Roman Cancel removed in this patch, so if you started like later in the game, imagine a faster reversal, because Dragon Punches used to be 7 frames, plus Red RC into like full combos, while you're using pokes that are like -13 or like -11 sweeps or things like that. This was really common, where like a bunch of the characters just had certain moves that were just straight up punishable, and then like a couple characters just had stuff that was plus for like no reason. As you mentioned with Jacko before, his fastest button used to not be 5 frames, so you were able to do plus moves and throw his mash. He also made this launch on hit, even on normal hit. This did not have this property when the game came out. They made his 2P low profile. They let him combo off his drill on crouching. Massive pushback on 5H, sweep, and 6P compared to before. Not to mention some special move changes. So probably the main ones you want to talk about is the new move straight up, item eat. This move lets you store an item for later, but also gives him a safer cancel option, which was one of his primary weaknesses on release. And finally, and I actually thought this was an interesting change, on launch, the Afro was kind of bad for him. It's still not good for him, but it can be used to upgrade his bomb bag. So he can get rid of the negative status effect, which I think is kind of interesting, as Afro is an item that affects both players. Later, they would also make it so that this move has my favorite special property of a highly advantageous guard crush. So you might have noticed pretty much all the characters I've been talking about are launch characters or characters from the first DLC. So I want to toss in an honorable mention to Sin Kisuke. Correction, I actually was corrected and it's supposed to be Sin Kisuke. I was corrected before. It's still weird to say though. Anyway, Sin came out in Season 2 and many an Exert player who still played Strive were ready to cry. However, he came out, let's say, a little undertuned. And I'm pretty sure it's because they let Timmy try him out at the office and he was cooking. Now, despite his recent DP nerf, I still think he's one of the most improved characters. And if you did play Season 2, there was kind of this weird theme of like characters came out weak in Season 2. Luckily, Bridget was out long enough that she was able to get some buffs in the winter patch, but since Sin came out so close to the patch in the middle of Season 2, they decided to give him no changes. So he was kind of stuck on this version for a while until Season 3. And this is despite the community thinking he was pretty weak really fast. So I figured it was still good to touch on him anyway, and even though I think the same about Bedman too, I'm pretty sure a lot of people think Bedman was also weak on release, I think Sid kind of had it in a more clear way. So for example, his backdash. His backdash on release was much worse than before. So he had a 5-frame backdash, but much longer total duration. So now he's essentially a standard quote-unquote character all-rounder with a heavy character's backdash, with 6 frames of invincibility and 20-frame total duration. In typical Sin fashion, it goes very far. Damage increase was kind of the name of the game with this character. Beak Driver, his main poke. Hoof Stomp and Overhead that also puts him airborne, which means you could make throws with and lows with good timing. And his other signature move, Elk Hunt, which is a very powerful, fast, low profile, all got damage increases. This move used to be far slower than before. Remember, Sin is one of the characters that still has special move follow-ups that are medium counter hit. 5H got an attack level increase. Mei has a faster jab than other characters, hers is 4 frames. And she's still not able to punish this. The only way you can punish this is by IBing and using throw. And he's able to counter this with Hoof Stomp. So it's a much safer pressure ender than before. In a similar theme to other characters, pokes also became faster and with less recovery. Things like Far Slash became far stronger in neutral after they buffed him in Season 3. But again, I feel like with the Season 2 characters, since they've had more time with the game in general, it was much easier for them to actually buff Sin to be in a place where they want him to be, than some of the Season 1 characters who had to go through rounds of changes before they kind of became fleshed out as a character. Which leads us to the last character of the bunch, which is Anji. Now, depending on who you talk to, right now Anji might be the best character out of this group. and he's gotten a ton of changes over time. So for starters, this used to not combo, which is pretty silly considering this is one of his main pokes. Sure, there's a gap in between the hits, but now he gets rewarded for whiff punishing, which is pretty big. Speaking of this move, it was punishable by DPs in Season 1. So they made it recover faster starting around Season 2. Lots of things about Fusion actually got better in Season 2. So this follow-up overhead got faster, and the low option started by just getting some more frame advantage. They went further in Season 3 by letting him get full combos off it. A really common style of change in Season 2 was slash buttons improving. So slash buttons have startup buffs and hurtbox buffs, and normals getting easier to combo off of. 2S is included in this as well. His 5H got a few rounds of buff, so initially the move forced crouching, but they went even further later and they made it launch on grounded opponents, opening up his combo opportunities even more. Ko, an anti-air move that was really good for combos, has gone through a few rounds of changes as well, generally around what type of combos he can do off of it. Patch notes say that Ko is easier to combo off of, but I always feel like Anji players have very different reactions to what they do to this move each patch, and low-key, I'm kind of expecting them to have a new feeling about some random Ko change they're going to make in the next patch as well. Now finally, he was in the first group of characters who had new special move, and his was extremely impactful. I'm pretty sure last year when I rated all the new special moves that I thought his was the best. So Anji's main thing is that even though a lot of his pressure is interactable, as in you can like mash out of it if you read him, and he has poor frame data overall, one really strong deterrent he has is that he's supposed to make you not want to swing because of this, the spin. That being said, the spin had a bunch of weaknesses, primarily against big jabs or space projectiles. So enter the new special move, Midare, the fish. So even with jabs, you get punished. And for some reason, if you do manage to do something that lets you recover before the spin and you block the fish, he gets a plus 11 guard crush so he can strike through you, continue pressure, whatever. This was huge for him because it dealt with a major roadblock in his gameplay, which was pretty common core counterplay to find the character before Season 3. And many people had to totally relearn how they fought Anji after he got this move. So those are the characters I think have been the most buffed since launch. Let me know what you guys think though. If you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do have a Metafy for Guilty Gear if you guys are interested in that. You can follow me to metafy.gg/@LordKnight for that. When this video comes out, I'm not going to be home, but I actually generally stream daily on Twitch. And I'm trying to let people know via community posts when I have special segments planned, like the Scrub Quote Confessionals I did at the end of last month. So keep an eye out for that and pull up to the stream. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.